G'day, I'm Max Tischler. I'm with Australian Desert Expeditions. I firstly just like to thank Rob for the opportunity to contribute to the hashtag Save the World initiative. It's a really big discussion piece, and it's certainly pertinent. It's one of the things that I ponder quite a bit as an ecologist, but also as a dad. I think because the changes that we're seeing in the natural world have been so rapid in recent times, that it's something that we really need to address and to think about how we safeguard the natural world for future generations. I think is really important. So, like I said, I'm an ecologist. I've been working in the arid and semi-arid zones of Australia for quite some time now, and amongst other things, I coordinate the research program for Australian Desert Expeditions. We're a registered environmental organisation, and we use traditionally outfitted pack camels to walk into the remote parts of the Central Australian deserts. And one of the reasons we do that, or the primary reason we do that is because there's an enormous part of our natural world, not just in Central Australia but everywhere, where we barely scratching the surface on what we know in terms of the biodiversity that's there and how we actually manage those sorts of landscapes. And so for us, we go in and we explore and we survey, and the reason we do that is because we need to understand what's there before we know how to conserve it or manage it or look after it or so forth. I mean, we've had our traditional owners have been in those landscapes for many, many millennia, but Western science is just starting to catch up to how we actually manage those areas. And for example, I guess some of the introduced threats and some of the natural threats are compounded by the bigger picture, which is climatic events, especially as how ecosystems, how landscapes are going to be able to cope with the predicted changes that we're going to see in human-induced climate change. So for us, or for me personally, the ecology component of the work that I do, which is to go in and look at the animals, look at the plants, see how their populations are distributed, how their communities are structured and so forth, is really the first step to better understand how we're going to be able to manage those landscapes. So I think for me it's really important that we understand what's there. That's the only way we're going to be able to develop, systems that are going to be able to, be resilient and functional for the natural world to keep ticking over. So, and that's not just exclusive to the Australian arid zone or the Australian deserts. I don't live in the deserts, although my wife would probably disagree with me. I live here, or we live here on the beautiful northern rivers of New South Wales, and here it's the same thing. We have pockets of littoral rainforest and dry sclerophyll forest and wetlands, and then we've got the wet tropics up around Cape York in the far north of Australia, and even there we still don't have a handle on what's there. And so I think that would be my biggest contribution to this discussion, is that we need to work out what's there before we can actually figure out how we save it. And I guess inherent in that would be the other thing that I would suggest, is that I think we need to re-establish our connection with the natural world. I think humans as a species need to realise that they're part of the natural world, and they need to see themselves in that bigger picture. I think we could probably learn a lot from our Indigenous cultures in this respect, how to look after, how to respect country and landscapes. And I think one way that I think the work that I do is we don't ride our camels into the deserts, we walk beside them. And I think walking country, walking landscapes is a really intimate way of developing that relationship and that connection to the natural world. I think that's going to be really important moving forward, especially fostering that in young kids. And you don't have to be part of an environmental group or be a scientist or so forth. It's as simple as maybe just taking your kids for a walk along the beach, or having a run across a paddock like this, or going for a hike, going around a lake, up a river, or whatever. I think it's really important. Well, I think it's important for the human condition, let alone how we look after the natural world. So I think that would be my another point I'd like to contribute. And then I think on a more personal level, and something that we can do on a day-to-day basis, I think we have to be more conscious of how we consume things, particularly food. And so food systems is a big one. I think we need to be aware of where our food is coming from, how it's produced, and the ecological impact that it's having, so we can better understand and minimise that, because that's going to be, with a burgeoning global population, I think we really need to become more conscious of how we consume resources. So yeah, I think that's probably it for me. I'd really like to express my gratitude of being able to contribute to this. I'm really excited and interested to see everyone else's contribution, and I hope you all get behind the hashtag Save the World program. So I guess to sum it up, let's walk more. Let's understand and connect with our natural world more. So hopefully, or we might see it in the desert sometimes. Cheers.